Hi, I'm Kai Michelson, and this is my good friend Ron Johnson. Ron and I have known each other for well over 50 years, I'd say, right?
It's over 50.
Yeah, I would say that I guess we'd be called old timers, right? Kind of old timers.
Well, I would hope to shout. I don't know where the old timer starts if we haven't made it there.
No, we're definitely there, and we've been reminiscing a little bit here, and we started talking about in the days of Union Grove, and then we say over to Cordova, where back then they had the World Series of drag racing, which they still have.
Yes.
And there's a great story to be told there. Back in, well, they used to have these beauty contests there, and
that's correct.
And we used to have a number of queen contestants, and
right.
And it was a big deal for us guys.
Well, it was. It was the Automobile Timing Association of America was the sponsoring organization, and they had as primary members a group of car clubs around the Midwest: Illinois, Michigan, Minnesota, Iowa. And they encouraged each one of the car clubs to bring a queen contestant to the event in 1957, and she was going to be crowned the queen of the World
Was
Series.
that A.T.A.A? What was it?
A.T.A.A.
Oh, A.T.A.A. Yeah, I'm dyslexic, I'll never get that one right.
Right,
But,
Automobile Timing Association of America.
Right. And I belong to that. I'm sure that you belong to that.
Oh, yeah.
And we all joined that. And we all joined. A lot of us joined that club.
We were part of Gopher State Timing Association,
right.
Although you and I belonged to different individual car clubs. Mine was the Bumper Buddies, and yours was
Custom Kings.
Custom Kings. But we were all under the umbrella of the Gopher State Timing Association, right. Which John Foster was the president of. And he and Wally Parks had a falling out over something. We didn't even have a drag strip yet, so I don't know what that might have been. But John worked out the alliance with the Automobile Timing Association of America instead, and all of the members of Gopher State Timing Association paid extra dues to belong to A.T.A.A.
So now we've all joined that club. Now we're all members of that club because we wanted to be at the time. Right.
Yep. That is correct. So they, as I said, organized the Queen contest and encouraged the car clubs to select a Queen contestant. We had a Queen contest at the 1957 Gopher State Timing Association car show at the Armory in downtown Minneapolis, yep. And the judges selected a young gal, a hostess for Northwest Airlines named Lee Yunkin. And Lee was a gorgeous girl, very nice, pleasant to talk to. She was a great candidate. There's a big event in Minneapolis called the Aquatennial, a parade in midsummer, and we had a float, and Lee was our queen on the float for the Aquatennial, as well as the Gopher State group bringing her to Cordova for the World Series.
Right. I remember that part well.
Yeah.
Now let's get down to the story of the nitty gritty where we're heading with all. We got the background.
Yeah.
We got the girl. We got the race coming up.
The Automobile Timing Association of America was sponsored by a company called, well, I don't know what the laws are, so I'm going to just say XXX Muffler.
Okay. Yeah, that'll work.
And
yeah, that'll work.
So XXX Muffler provided funding for the A.T.A.A. for its president Jim Lamona to be able to put these events on. And as part of their participation, they sent a rather senior vice president to Cordova, Illinois, which is not really a town. It's probably a gas station. I don't think there's even a Dairy Queen there.
It's a very small town.
It's a very small town.
Without getting off too much of that subject, after the races, Peabody and I went through town and we were kind of looking for some girls. Believe it or not, we could not find one girl So I went to the phone booth and hustled the phone operator from the field. We ended up meeting at a bar. True story. Okay, back where we're at now.
Anyway, the aforementioned vice president was one of the judges, a celebrity judge, along with European Count Luigi Lisowski or some such thing. He had won the $64,000 question. Most of you probably have no idea what the $64,000 question was, but it was a TV program and it had huge following.
And they got caught cheating.
Yeah,
eventually.
That could be.
It was a setup deal, and they got caught, made a big deal out of it. That's kind of the end of the deal.
Well, anyway, Luigi and the vice president were both celebrity judges for the beauty contest, which was going to be held on Saturday night. And during the days leading up to this, which they were in attendance for, they stopped in a little restaurant in Byron, Illinois, or Cordova, somewhere, I don't know. And the waitress was of interest to them, and her name was Sally Rocker.
Yeah,
R-O-C-K-E-R.
she might have had rockers too, something like that.
Yeah.
She did, definitely, she was a very beautiful woman. Yeah.
For those who remember the old days, she looked a lot like Jane Mansfield,
Yes.
except she was much prettier.
Yeah.
And Sally was an absolute knockout and very statuesque. And they engineered an entry for her in the Queen contest. And we, of course, being part of one of the car clubs that brought our contestant, had no idea about this. And as the contest evolved, the first set of results had our contestant, Lee Youngkin, as the winner. But a recall was called, and the judges convened again, and lo and behold, the second time their choice was Sally Rocker. Well, we were less than pleased because we didn't really feel that this was in the spirit of things. All the car clubs had gone to such great lengths to bring their contestant, and then the outcome was created by horsepower instead of by
Right, it's kind of a setup
popular
deal.
vote.
Yeah, it wasn't a true deal.
So there was nothing we could do about it there at all. So the event ended, and that might have been the end of it. But Gopher State Timing Association had a little publication that they put out, we put out, a friend of mine and I, both members. It was called the Gopher State Timer, and we put this newsletter out every month, and I wrote a story about the event, and I mentioned in there that the results of the contest had been adjusted to the satisfaction of the vice president from the XXX Muffler Company. And so, having had my say about it, I was done with the issue, but others weren't. About 3 months later, John Foster, president of Gopher State Timing Association, got a telephone call from Jim Lamona, president of Automobile Timing Association of America, and he said that he had been contacted by legal department of XXX Muffler, and if we would not retract the story in the Timer, they were going to pull the sponsorship.
Right, right.
Well, I called John Foster. And he said, "What do you want to do?" And I said, "Well, John, you were there. Did I report it accurately?" And he said, "You did." And I said, "Do you feel pressured by this?" And he said, "Not particularly." I said, "Do you want to take a stance on it?" And he said, "No." And I said, "Well, then, as far as I'm concerned, the story stands because it reported the facts accurately."
Right.
So the wheels turned, and actually, A.T.A.A. did lose their sponsorship from Merrimont Muffler. XXX Muffler, that is. At any rate, in the spring, there was a small article in another Minnesota publication that I had some contributions to, but I didn't write the story. But it spelled out how the A.T.A.A. organization had ceased to be with the sponsorship of the muffler company, and they transferred what was left of the year's membership of each one of the members to N.H.R.A.
Right, now also we're members of N.H.R.A.
And N.H.R.A. agreed to honor the remainder of the membership year for each member, at which point they would be billed for N.H.R.A. dues. And so A.T.A.A. kind of slid under the water. N.H.R.A. and they had been in a very strong battle for membership in the Midwest because A.T.A.A. was dominant.
Yes, back
all
then.
through the Midwest area, and N.H.R.A. could not get traction. They were big on the West Coast, they were big on the East Coast, but in the heartland, in the Midwest states, they were dog meat. And so the collapse of A.T.A.A. by itself, with the transfer of the members to N.H.R.A., doubled N.H.R.A.'s membership and eliminated their fiercest competitor.
Exactly.
All in one fell swoop, whatever.
Yeah, one swoop.
About 1983, I was at Brainerd for the N.H.R.A. race, and I was videotaping. You remember when I was videoing the races?
Oh, yes.
Anyway,
Pictures,
I was a couple hundred feet out from the starting line, and Wally Parks came over and was standing by me. And there was a lull in the activity, and I described the situation, and I asked him if he remembered it. And he said yes, he did remember that in the year 1958, they got a box from A.T.A.A. with hundreds of mimeograph labels in them, the little tin, like a dog tag that they used to run through a postage machine. And that was the evidence of the membership of the various members. Their membership number and their expiration date
Right.
of their membership was on the dog tag along with their name and address. So N.H.R.A. sent a continuation of membership, but now in N.H.R.A.
Yes.
And so their membership was continued through their expiration date. And then at that point they were billed by N.H.R.A. And the size of N.H.R.A. was increased dramatically because, as I've kind of alluded to, A.T.A.A. was very, very strong in the heartland.
Yeah, they were growing very fast.
And
Very fast.
Lamona, the owner of the organization, was a pretty shrewd guy, and he was very personable and did a good job. And that World Series of drag racing, that
Wow.
was the biggest event in the country.
Incredible, absolutely incredible.
For fuel cars.
Yes.
There was nothing that came close to it. And so anyway, that's the story. A.T.A.A. sunk beneath the waves, and N.H.R.A. no longer had a competitor, and they also probably came close to doubling their
Yeah, all of a
membership
sudden,
size.
overnight, we became N.H.R.A. members.
Yes, we did.
But, as we look back at that, look at the difference between, racers had a little Johnny Rebel, more type, and looser rules, and the other association. N.H.R.A. is a lot tighter, and now it's a real well-organized,
Yes.
oiled machine. It's totally different than back then, and
No
they've
question
continued to
about
grow
it.
because of it. But
And I think the sport, and we are the fans, like we are now, are better off because of the combination of the membership into one and the elimination of the competition between them.
yes,
Because I think the one organizing body was able to do a better job with it. And N.H.R.A. has arguably done a stupendous job in
Yeah, no doubt about it.
building membership and making drag racing something that is not like it was when they very first started. Hot rodders were a bad group, and drag racing was a terrible thing. And now, except for a few people in the media,
well, it's recognized over the world. It's a worldwide sport now,
exactly,
and a hobby and sport.
Sure. Europe, Australia, Qatar, and the Emirates, and so forth. Well, that's my story, and I'm stuck with it.
Yeah, right. Well, us old timers know those stories, and there's not too many left that still know those stories. Nice seeing you, Ron. Thanks a lot. Appreciate it.
You betcha.